Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today we have some beautiful quote channelings on war and peace. Right now in the world, it seems we're moving into a period of imbalance and war. This is actually a feature of third density. What can we do about it, and why do we see these wars all around us? Quo has some words about this and our galactic history as well. Quo is a principle of social memory complexes of higher entities that we've covered on several episodes in the past. Many of these are very powerful, authentic, and spiritually relevant. We begin with the channeling on November 18th, 2001. The question today has to do with why human beings in the third density, especially here on Earth, seem to be so warlike. In this particular system, we have had the experience of Mars, which was apparently so warlike that they destroyed their atmosphere. Maldek exploded its planet. Earth has had thousands of years of war. We are wondering what it is about the third density that seems to lend itself to entities in it moving in the direction of warlike actions. Is it the nature of our consciousness interacting in social groups? Is it our free will choice? Is it our opposable thumb? Our ability to make and use tools and therefore weapons? We would appreciate anything Quo could tell us about what it is that gives us this propensity for war and what it is we need to do as individuals, groups, and nations to move in the direction of cooperation and working together instead of against each other. Carla channeling begins, "We are those known to you as the principle of the Quo, and we greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, in whose service we come to you. We thank you for coming together to seek the truth and for joining in this circle of seeking. We thank you for calling for us, for we greatly appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts with you. We ask only that you use your discrimination in listening to our words and set aside any words that trouble you, for we would not be a stumbling block, but rather a resource for your seeking. We ask you to trust your discrimination and no outside authority, for you know what is comfortable and what is good within for you, and you may trust that instinct within you." The question that you ask this day is an interesting one in which there is indeed a great deal to say, but not as concise and crystalline a pattern as in some matters. The causes of war within third density in one way are unified into one cause, and in another, there are threads of cause. It simply depends upon the level at which you wish to attack the question. We will start with the threads, we think, because perhaps that is more where each of your minds are at this time. One thread having to do with third density and war is the nature of the physical vehicle which you as a species enjoy and which others upon other planets have somewhat closely approximated in the sense of the basic structure of the 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, 1 torso makeup of the body. When you gaze at the instincts of the stock from which your species developed, you may see that your instincts, those deep-seated predilections for response in certain situations, are those of a territorial animal. Your great apes occupy a certain area in which they are upon their home territory for hunting food and protecting their source of water. The nature of this species is such that for the most part entities remain within various small groupings, each with its own territory, and with each territory being allowed its own way in what this instrument would call a laissez-faire structure, each group being independent from each other group, no attempt being made to work together in larger groups. This is the instinct basis which feeds into the mind's working, for a portion of the mind is involved with prioritizing messages from the body which have a tag which says urgent. Therefore, even though these instincts are unthinking, they represent a substantial bias that prejudices third density entities in the direction of what is perceived as their territory or their possession. If you will gaze upon the tangle of reasons surrounding your bellicose actions, you will find that territorial considerations almost always play a significant role. This is the energy of red ray, of survival, being expressed. When the territory is threatened, the territory must be defended. When other territory is seen as necessary and it must be gotten, then aggression is considered reasonable. This remains a substantial portion of the reason for war in third density. Another thread of this tapestry of third density situations and areas of conflict is the nature of the third density mind. This third density mind, without the benefit of the consciousness that is you as an eternal being, is a choice maker mind. It is designed to make one choice after another. It assumes as a way of working that there is always a right choice, and therefore sees the process of living as a sequence of choices. Faced with a situation, a third density mind will attempt to solve the situation, not necessarily to appreciate it, to understand it, to analyze it, or to plumb its subtleties. The first mental reflex is to solve it, to make it go away. The tendency to see black and white, yes and no, feeds into that ability to be belligerent, which is indeed a hallmark of your density. The very nature of the mind is such that it tends to suggest to the most rational thinker that decisions must be made, that plans must be made, that all must be chosen and then whipped into order along the lines of choice. Another thread that moves into the war-making ability of humankind and of third density in general is, as the one known as Jim suggested, the challenge of working with groups. The great question in any group is, what is the character of that group? A group shows its character as it chooses its leaders. Those who attempt to be leaders within large groups tend to have personality structures in which the use of aggression seems fair, the use of influence, just the use of all advantages necessary. The tendency, therefore, is for leadership not to be as idealistic as the spoken ideal philosophy that is given respect in polite company, while at the same time, as the one known as Jim pointed out, ignores those same ideals when it seems to be of some advantage. All of these threads feed into the situation where entities feeling threatened respond to their insecurity by aggression. You may see the fight for territory. You may see the greed for advantage, influence, and power. You may see the tendency to do something as opposed to resting and gathering for extended periods of time, that impatience of leadership, that impulsivity. And a final thread that we would mention is that tendency of the stronger to bully the weaker. And by this we mean to indicate not nations against nations, but rather, as the one known as C pointed out, male against female. One kind of energy over against its dynamic opposite. Instead of coming into cooperation with that dynamic opposite, we have found that in populations of third density entities who have chosen to seek the face of the Creator in a feminine face, the values of the culture include far less impulsivity and far more kindness than in cultures dominated by a Creator who is seen as a powerful male figure. The tendency to find positions of power held by male entities, the tendency of the very workings of the law, and certainly the traditional underpinnings of your cultures upon your earth at this time favor the values of strength, power, and force, the virtues of a strong male figure. The very roots of your thinking, shall we say, from childhood, have been saturated with testosterone-rich heroic deeds. This entity has a fondness for reading, and we find in this entity's mind many a story which involves the waving of the sword, the brandishing of the firearm, the assumption that weaponry and armament are natural concomitants of policy. And indeed, we do not disparage war in and of itself. It is part of the almost inevitable confusion of third density. We do not suggest strict ways of thinking about conflict, for a case can be made for war as a game, as an excellent game, rich in glory and honor. Like many other things, which from a wider point of view seem insane, going to war is a part of the expression of third density, as most third density planets experience the density. Beyond all these reasons, the heart of war and the heart of the reason for war in third density is the nature of love. All things that you experience come to you as distortions of love. There is no other substance but love from which to draw life. So all of life, including murder, pillage, and rape, is act after act of love. Love distorted, love blocked, love asked to go where it would not go. Nevertheless, no matter how many times the stock seems to be hybridized and ruined, the basic rootstock of all experience is love. Third density is a very focused, very intense density, the density of choice. The choice is not between love and hate. The choice is between the two ways of seeking love, loving others as a way of choosing to love, or loving the self as a way of choosing to love. Needless to say, the service to others path is not a warlike path. It is allegedly service to self-entities that would move themselves into fighting against their own kind. And yet the struggle to see clearly the roots of love within the self is a tremendous one. As the one known as Jim has said, it is not that anyone knows not how to love. There are many examples of unconditional love. There are very simple words to indicate the qualities of forgiveness, compassion, and love. However, all of these words are only within the mind until an energetic attempt begins to be made to translate these ideals into that which can be manifested in physical life. So the question becomes, what is each seeker's response to the call of love? And this is not a simple thing. It is easy for us to ask each to go into meditation each day and seek the silence. The answers are there within the silence, not within our words. However, when it comes to attempting to step into your shoes as third density entities, we find that we are simply glad that each of you has the energy and the will for this great task of seeing the truth amidst the confusion. Love calls powerfully and pulls each entity forward. Third density is carefully designed to pull entities forward according to their desires and their thirst. The challenge of selfhood is to find out what you truly desire. What shall you desire? Truth? Love? Peace? Where is the substance to those words? Where is the reality beneath your feet? What is your understanding of your journey? If you understand that you are here to pursue spiritual evolution, that you are here to answer the call of love, then you will want to shape your questions to the infinite creator in such a way that you are seeking your own essence and the essence of love itself. It is though by some that if people would stop shooting at each other, that we would have peace, and yet we would say to you that it is not as simple as that. For as the one known as C said, if one stops doing that, then what does one do instead? At least aggression against a certain and very specific nation, state, or group of entities is a limited and achievable battle, and at the end of it, one can say, such and such has been achieved, and now there is peace. And yet we say to you, like love itself, peace is beyond all condition. Peace does not originate within conditions. Peace is a quality that is waiting for each third density entity to take it and claim it as his own, his very own, a wonderful, blessed possession. Yet how many entities truly seek the peace within their own hearts, which comes from stopping the striving and encouraging the resting in what is? How many entities truly embrace peace if peace involves releasing many other things which are dear? The one known as Jesus answered the man who said, I follow all of the commandments. What else shall I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? By suggesting that he sell all that he had and give the money that he received to the poor. And the young man went away very unhappy because he did not wish to do this, even if it meant entering the kingdom of heaven. Pride, vanity, the need to be better than someone else, all of these are energies within the human heart that are natural to the instinctual second density body and third density brain. Yet you, as a consciousness, as an eternal being, are resting within these biases for an incarnational experience in which you are attempting to follow the inexorable pressure of seeking for the truth. And your question each day to yourself is always the same. Where in this moment is the love? Where in this moment is the Creator? So we do not suggest that it is an evil thing to go to war in and of itself. We do suggest that it is not a productive way to seek spiritually compared to the ways of peace. Yet in many ways, your third density will express conflict because that is the basic nature of people who see themselves as separate from and over against others. This is a part of the catalyst of third density. It is a part of the hard lessons of love. And indeed, it does move through not just third density, but also to some extent fourth density. For there are those within fourth density who choose to continue as children of light or as children of darkness and continue the clash of polarities. As fourth density wears on, this great love of being a warrior begins to evaporate as love is being learned. Each has had crystalline, shining moments in his life when love has become real, not just a word, not just a concept, but amazingly, vividly, powerfully real. Think about those times and the gift that those times have given you. Allow the consciousness that filled you at those moments to come back to you, just to remember how it feels. We encourage each to ponder deeply her own essence and the nature of her own heart. The heart of one entity and the heart of the world upon which you live are the microcosm and the macrocosm of the same thing. And actually, each of you is of a higher order than the world itself. As you choose to seek, to think, and to act, so shall the reflections manifest in the macrocosm that is your globe. Work with the essence of self to find ways to choose not to promote conflict, ways to express the truths that do not do damage to those who think differently. But above all, seek that presence within that is as the ray of light that is a fuller light, a light that blesses the darkness, a light that is not afraid. Open the self to that gentle, lambent flame that is the presence of the infinite creator. Let the light take up and enlarge its home within your heart. As you seek the ways of peace within yourself, as you find ways to solve conflict within yourself, you are learning a little bit more for the planetary mind. There's a fairly quick growing group of those who are attempting to speak peace upon your planet, not in ways of public policy, but in ways of working within to become beings of peace. We see this body of energy enlarging upon your planet. And we feel very hopeful that against all of the apparent news to the contrary in your Earth world, the lessons of love are more and more being seen, sometimes for the first time. Entities are awakening and doing some of this inner choosing of essence that we suggest. As more individual lives are transformed, so we believe shall your planet be transformed. We would encourage each not to take to heart the appearance of things. It is said in your holy works that there will be wars and rumors of wars. There will be this and there will be that. But the time is not yet. And we say to you that we believe this to be true. The true war for each of you is the struggle that the one known as Jim called the jihad, the internal struggle of the pilgrim to discipline the earthly self in order to make of the earthly self a vessel for the spirit within. In this jihad, in this holy conflict, your choices are not clear. And yet there is always a light that shines from within. And so we ask you simply to seek that light, to seek the face of love. And when you see that sun shine radiantly, that is love, to learn from it and to offer yourself to it. For you too can be an agent of love within the confusion. You too can be a part of the eventual peace upon planet Earth. It begins with each individual seeker seeking the ideals within herself that she hopes to see in the world. Question. From our email group, one topic that came up, a fellow named B anchored frequencies like love to the earth. I asked if there was anything that I could do to be of such help, and it was agreed that it was a matter of intention. But many seem to have certain abilities that I'm not aware that I have. Is there anything that you can enlighten me on as far as that type of service and how to be of service? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. We can speak to those areas which any seeker has access to. It is not our function to discover for another that which is latently possible, for this learning is that which is most important to each seeker. However, any seeker may simply share the quality of being, which each has as a basic vibration, as distinct as one's fingerprint or voice print. For each of you resonates and vibrates in a certain fashion according to the nature of how you seek, of what you seek. And as you're able to communicate that very basic quality of your efforts to another, you share from heart to heart that which is of most importance. Each of you vibrates in a certain fashion the harmonics of love. For from love was each made. If one is able, through the process of seeking, to discover this basic vibration of love, then there is no greater gift that one may share with another. Clearly, communicating that which is your intention and that which is your desire is another method for sharing that is available to all seekers. Clear communication is a phrase which sounds simple, yet it is difficult for each to achieve within third density, for there is much confusion, not only among entities, but within entities. To take the time to seek the heart of self is a process which also enables one to reveal or to share clearly that heart of self with others. To offer a service which is requested and which one feels able to offer is a third way in which any seeker may offer itself in service to others. This requires the seeker to look carefully into what the needs are from others with whom one is in contact. This looking also requires the seeker to listen to that which is requested, perhaps clearly requested, perhaps hinted at. Perhaps there is a means by which the seeker may elicit the needs of others through questions. These are but a few ways in which any seeker may serve, and yet, though they are common to all, they are basic methods of being of service which are most valuable to any seeker. Is there another query, my brother? Yes, we also discussed connecting the various meditation groups and circles of light, and I suggested attempting to contact such groups in the Middle East or China or Africa and places other than just the Western world to start seeds of a global consciousness. Could you share your thoughts on that topic? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. To open the avenues of communication with those who are distant geographically and perhaps culturally as well is an effort which we encourage wholeheartedly, for there is far too little true sharing between such entities upon your planetary surface at this time. When people that are divergent in points of view, in backgrounds, in culture, religion, and socioeconomic status are able to communicate with others, there is what we might call a commonality discovered between such entities, which opens doors, shall we say, opens minds, and opens hearts in a way which is not possible through any other means. To read about a culture, to hear about a culture is most informative to those who have little experience outside their own cultures. Thus, this effort is one which could be most helpful at this time, and we encourage your efforts in this endeavor. Is there a further query, my brother? Just one. When Atlantis disappeared under the waves, what happened to the Maxim Stone, the spiritual center? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. This is information which moves into the area of infringing upon the free will of others, which we do not wish to do. We apologize for our lack of information. Is there another query, my brother? That's interesting. No more queries from me, thanks. We move to another channeling delivered on April 10th, 1988. Has to do with nuclear warfare and the cause of the tensions that build toward the feeling of separation and anger that are strong enough to lead to warfare, and to, since we have the nuclear bombs at our disposal, the chances of using them. What kind of energies are necessary for us to understand in order to back away from the kind of confrontation that might bring about the use of nuclear weapons? What type of growth would signify the understanding that we would rather preserve our environment and illusion than destroy it? I am Quo, my brothers and sisters, and I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. It is both a privilege and a blessing to be called to your meditation, and our hearts rejoice in this sharing of blessing and energy. You have called us with a question about your living conditions upon your planet at this time, wishing to know what energies were in motion concerning nuclear war, and whether humankind is capable at this present moment you experience of avoiding the destructive action of nuclear war. First, let us say that our basic message springs from one thought, and that is that love is all that there is, that creative and divine love is the one original thought, that this thought is the closest representation in words which we know to the unseen and ever mysterious infinite Creator, and that each of you is a portion of that creator, and the infinity of that creator a portion of yourself. Thusly, when we speak of the energies involved in experiencing an illusion, we are speaking of that which is apparent but not real, that which is experienced in an illusory pattern, in order that work in consciousness may be done by those infinite selves that you are, with the basic nature of humankind understood as being all in the Creator and the Creator in all. We can then speak in a more relative manner concerning certain appearances and behaviors which you are experiencing at this time upon your planet's surface. The energies concerning nuclear war that are in motion, indeed all energies concerning the use of nuclear power, have their origin in the origins of many of those which walk upon your planet at this time, and have for thousands of your years. Many of those spirits which are now within the Earth's many dimensions of experience have experience in third density, during which the patterns of nuclear warfare and similar global catastrophe were carried out by humankind upon humankind. The mass of group thought concerning this error within the racial past has never been completely healed to the point at which we are speaking, and these energies shall continue to be in need of healing until each entity involved in a planetary catastrophe in the past, as you would call it, has had an opportunity to balance this misaction by self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others. The pattern is at a more hopeful state as we speak with you than has been the case since we began our observation of your nuclear activity. Indeed, since it first became a tool used by your scientists and armed entities. There is much of hope in the growing improvement within many entities' balancing process, as more and more of those who have been involved karmically in this matter are able to attain a balanced state of forgiveness. The crisis may well pass. We encourage all efforts which may be made by any within the area of self-forgiveness and balancing, the conscious balancing within the mind of passion and wisdom. We would bring this thought before you before we close this discussion, and that is this: the arena in which you move is indeed an illusion, yet it is indeed excellent that you should be active within that illusion, not overcoming it or ignoring it, but engaging the self with each and every aspect in which you, as a self, feel that you have strength, something to offer, some way to be of service. This illusion, including any catastrophe, is designed not to destroy, nor to build according to the infinite whims of humankind, but to offer opportunities for learning and growth. It is the unsettled times, the traumatic times, the confrontative times that are so often productive of the most rapid inner growth towards that maturity of spirit which all who are on a path of seeking hope endlessly for. This is not, said the teacher known as Jesus, the kingdom of God, this little planet and its wars and rumors of wars. The kingdom, the absolute, the truth lie within each whole and perfect and very dimly perceived. Through crisis and contemplation, each seeker processes through an infinite series of realizations which give a richer point of view, a deeper point of view, and hopefully a more and more balanced point of view. Each increases in inner peace, and as the inner peace blossoms in the heart, the entity becomes one who is doing his very utmost to avert nuclear catastrophe. Peace on planet Earth is possible. It is possible because humankind wishes to progress. We do not know whether or not the possibility shall become reality, and we would not prophesy. We only wish to encourage each entity to know that his or her own inner peace is the road which must be traveled by each and every person. And when that inner peace meets other inner peace, boundaries drop, hostilities end, and a realization of oneness occurs. When you are truly self-forgiven at peace within, you are doing planetary healing work. You are averting war. You are being a reflection of that beloved and ever unknown Creator. May each of you hold peace within the mind, take it into meditation, and open the self to allowing self-forgiveness. We thank this instrument and would move on at this time. Question: I have a very quick query. Were you or was a Confederation member working with H2 right at the end of my contact? I became aware of it and I was just checking my accuracy. I am Quo, and we were offering the conditioning vibration to the one known as H2 as a link between the one known as H2 and those of Oxal, which were pleased to make a renewed contact with this instrument. Carla asks, I guess I do have one question, and that's just this. H1 and I have been talking all afternoon off and on, and the question of relative ethics versus absolute idealistic ethics came up, and we were sort of tossing it back and forth. And from what you say, you depict the earth scene as one in which no absolute is possible, that it is an illusion and thus by its very nature relative. Is that an accurate perception, or is it true that even in an illusion things work in a mathematically metaphysical manner? I am Quo and am aware of your query, my sister. Within your illusion, the range of sight is limited by the great veil of forgetting, which effectively separates the conscious and unconscious mind, so that when one looks upon one's experiences and daily round of activities, one sees with the accumulated experiences of this life only. And though there may be those ideals which such a mind may hold and see as absolute in their purity, and may indeed attempt to move in harmony through each daily experience with such ideals, yet within the limits of your illusion, each ideal is colored with the limitations of the perception, the limitations of the incarnation, for by so limiting the self, the attention may be drawn ever more closely and more carefully to certain balances, distortions, lessons, and directions that, worked upon successfully, aid an entity in its overall evolutionary process by making the experience specific and intensively experienced, so that it is set or driven within the personality. This is the great benefit of the limitation of the viewpoint. Yet on the other hand, as you would say, the difficulty that such limitation presents is removing from the consideration of such an entity the wider point of view that is more informed, shall we say, and which partakes more purely of those qualities that are the ideal of thought and action. Thus, each thought and action within your illusion is achieved in intensity and purity by the limitation of the viewpoint, and at the expense of the wider viewpoint of view. Yet there are those times between the incarnation when the wider point of view is brought to bear in order that that which has been learned in previous experience might be the foundation for that which awaits the learning in future incarnational experience. Thus, each seeker of truth within your illusion is as the one upon the long journey, through darkness with but a small candle to light the way, seeing only what is within the light given off by the candle of hope and faith. And within such a circumstance can those fine adjustments of perception be made that aid the seeker to take each small step upon this great journey. Question: does the end ever justify the means, or is this question in itself one which belongs in the area of worldly ethic? I am Quo, and we view this query as one which does not have great application to those entities which move within your illusion. For in order for any goal or end of action and thought to justify the means by which the goal, action, or thought was attained, one would need the wider view, in which all elements and ingredients which are part of such thought and action might be clearly seen, and most in fact, of that which is an integral part of your experience within this illusion is hidden from your sight. Thus, it is that we have often said that it is the intention, the motivation for thought and action, which is that of most importance. For within your illusion, there is not the ability to see wisely and to act according to clear seeing. Thus, the pure intention is that which is of most importance for you within your illusion at this time. Question: I have a question. I would like to know what part fear plays in my life. I mean, I know that fear is there, and it certainly drives me. I'd like for you to speak about fear a little bit. I am Quo, and we find that we have been asked to move into an area which is quite large in scope, but will attempt to be brief in its discussion. The concept of fear is a concept which has its root in a more basic concept, and that is a separation of the self from a significant part of the creation. When an entity finds that its point of view operates from this basis, then there is the possibility of viewing another portion of the creation as not only being other than self, but of being in some way threatening to the self, and in some way hindering the movement and choices and potential of the self. When such a root perception has taken hold, or been taken hold of, shall we say, by an entity, this quality of fear then may become a secondary source of motivation for thought and action. Secondary, we say, because though it may indeed motivate an entity to move in a pattern which in the overall sense may aid the entity in many ways in its own growth and serving of others, yet is a distortion of the greater means of motivation which is available to each entity in the form of the feeling of a harmonious balance and flow of energy between the entity and each portion of its environment, and the natural desire to move into that harmonious environment that comes from the feeling of harmony with it. Thus, when an entity finds that there is any kind of fear within its pattern of experience, the entity may find not only a source of motivation to thought and action that may serve it well for a time, but the entity shall also find upon further investigation of that which is feared that there is a greater opportunity to explore the nature of the fear to the point that the feeling of separation is identified at the point within the incarnation in which it was first experienced. And through such discovery, the entity may then seek to balance that fearful experience with one which views that previously feared in a more accepting and compassionate light, for the outer environment is a mirror, and each seeker may view a portion of its own self and respond to that outer environmental segment or experience as it is a portion of the self. Thus, each sees its world, shall we say, through eyes that see inwardly and project outwardly and respond to that which is seen in a manner which allows the learning of certain lessons that have been programmed previous to the incarnation. Thus, many entities may look upon one situation within your illusion and see as many interpretations for that situation as there are entities viewing it. Thus, the experience of fear is that which needs to be approached with the same loving acceptance and looking forward with eager opportunity as any gift that one may present to the self or another. For each portion of your experience is a portion of yourself which exists in order to reveal itself to you. May we speak further in any fashion, my sister? I feel you've answered my question very well. Thank you. I am Quo, and we would thank each of you for inviting our presence this evening, and thank each as well for those queries offered to us, for they are as gifts which allow us to perform our humble service and to walk a distance with you upon your journey of seeking. And for this great honor, we are most humbled and privileged. At this time, we shall take our leave of this group, leaving each as always in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We are known to you as those of Quo. Adonai, my friends. Adonai. So these two channelings from these two different dates I found to be relevant and powerful. We see the world for a long time now, always in a state of war, all over the world, in the Middle East, in Russia, and the United States. So many wars, so many times we see governments and countries moving to war. And according to the law of one material, many of the entities on this planet destroyed an entire planet in our solar system, Maldek, in a huge war. And also many entities on this planet were from Mars and destroyed Mars. So we are warlike beings, and we're dealing with this. Perhaps we've reached a point of spiritual evolution where we can move beyond it. And perhaps the wars we see today give us an opportunity, a catalyst to understand the war that is occurring is within ourselves. You may look at the news and feel hopeless. What can I do? And it brings on fears and thoughts and worries and concerns, and we can only send love and light, and we can go within and look for the place where this war is happening and find an inner peace. As they indicate, it may be self-forgiveness, which is the key of the peace in the outer world. That's hard to understand, but remember, everybody is you pushed out. So when you see these wars that are happening, oftentimes that war is happening within you. How could it be? You say you're peaceful and happy. How could it be? There's no way. Maybe it's just something that's just happening. But what if it's not? What if there is a portion of you that is at war with itself? And if you can go in and forgive yourself and others and allow love and light and knowledge and wisdom come into your heart, you may see an expression of this peace within yourself in the outer world. That's all that we can do at this point. We can send love to those that need it, and we can send love to ourselves and learn to overcome these warlike thoughts. Obviously, it is a fundamental part of third density. And they say sometimes, it's justified. They're not saying that it's all evil, but it is a conflict within ourselves that we must overcome for us to see the peace in the world. For peace is possible, as they say in these channelings. I would like to know your perspective. And if you get a chance, please try my global peace meditation. I've got a chance to do that as a group meditation multiple times, and it is quite wonderful. If you do that, it is always being done with large groups of people, and you can resolve this inner portion, this inner conflict within yourself, and you can create global peace. We can do it together. And if we continue to focus on peace, what we focus on, we get, we see. So if you continue to look for peace, you will find it. Yes, the world may seem like it's in conflict, but don't let that be a distraction, and don't let that create an imbalance in you. Look for the imbalance within and resolve it there. And if we each do that, we can create expanding bubbles of peace all around us. So it is our job for us to do this with the great power that we've been given, with the love and light that comes through us and streams through us, to send this love and light to the world, to bring it to peace. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.